'Tis the season for new Christmas movies. Of course, Hallmark is littered with them, but every year a few of them make their way into theaters as well. Slightly bigger budgets, maybe bigger stars, and the first one of those is here for 2024. It's based on a popular book from the 70s. Let's talk about the best Christmas pageant ever. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for the best Christmas pageant ever. And this is based on a very popular book from Barbara Robinson. And was made into a movie in the 80s. I do believe that was a TV movie, but now it gets the big screen treatment with this one. And it is really the first of the big holiday movies for the year. So we're going to cover this here in just a second. But first, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are one of my subscribers already, thank you so much for that. Love having you guys return to the channel. But if you're not, please consider subscribing, click that notification bell, or just like this video, comment below. That stuff all helps the channel out tremendously. All right, so let's get to this one. The best Christmas pageant ever. This is featuring a narration from Lauren Graham. You know, always wonderful to see and hear her from the many TV shows and movies that she's done. And she is in one of the most famous R-rated Christmas movies, Bad Santa. I forget if she was in the second one. I think she was, but she was definitely in the first one. And this is the opposite of that. This is a PG film, and it is a Christian-themed movie. In fact, the director here, Dallas Jenkins, is most famous probably for being director, co-writer, and producer on The Chosen, which is, I'm still not quite exactly sure. I guess it's sort of a TV show, but it plays in theaters, because I'll see, like, every few months, it's like The Chosen, episodes 3 through 5 or whatever. So I guess it is a TV show, but they release it theatrically as well. But look, Christian movies do amazing at the box office, obviously. But this one is interesting because it's certainly not marketed as such. It's marketed as a Christmas movie, and we think usually, okay, well, if it's a Christmas movie, it's going to have maybe Christian undertones. Certainly not necessarily, right? And we've seen that with Bad Santa, and there's one coming out next week called Red One, which is PG-13, and I don't really think there's going to be a lot of meaning of Christmas type messages in that movie. I don't know. I'm going to see it, and we'll find out then. But, most of the Christmas movies that get released, I feel like, are not sort of in the spirit of the season, let's say. Some of them certainly have some emotional moments. Certainly a lot of the animated ones do. But in terms of, like a pure faith-based movie, not so much, really. And, of course, with the Hallmark stuff and the Lifetime channel, that is more romance-based. So not a ton of messaging there either. So this is an interesting one. Let's talk about the plot, basically, first. So the Herdmans are the nasty family on the block. They have 6 siblings, and they have a reputation for being, just the worst kids out there. They steal, they smoke cigars, they curse at their teachers. But they find themselves in church one week because they are looking for some dessert, some food. They're told by one of their classmates that there's a lot of food at the church. And so they end up taking over the local Christmas pageant, which is in its 75th year. It's like a huge deal, that even the news has been covering this Christmas pageant. Everyone's waiting for it. And all of a sudden, the worst family around is basically in charge of it, has all of the leading roles. So we have here Molly Bell Bright is the young girl that is not part of the Herdman clan. She is one of their classmates. She plays Beth Bradley, and Lauren Graham is the narrator, who is the older version of Beth. And then we have as her parents Judy, Greer, and Pete Holmes. Certainly not superstars, but we've seen them in many things over the years. Judy Greer, boy, I don't know. You might know her from Jurassic World. You might know her from Arrested Development. She's done a lot of things, but this is maybe one of her biggest roles. She's usually relegated to, the friend or the coworker or, the side character that only has 2 or 3 scenes. Here, she's pretty front and center. She's, in fact, her character is in charge of directing the Christmas pageant. And then we have the Herdman kids really are not notable names, but I'll read them off anyway. You've got Beatrice Schneider, Mason D. Nelligan, Matthew Lamb, Ewan Wood, Essex Moore, and Kinley Hellman. Those are the Herdman kids, and I don't know them from anything really, but they really do not only steal the show in the movie, they steal, kind of the pageant, but they sort of steal this movie. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But that's the basic plot here. They have to figure out how to make this pageant work with the Herdmans, and what the town discovers is that maybe they weren't as Christian as they thought all along. And that sort of thing, kind of dismissing this group of kids. So look, this one is an interesting one to review, because it is rated PG. It is, I think, for all intents and purposes, designed to be a family comedy, and the book was certainly funny. So I hoped maybe that would translate to the screen, but here's the problem: it's like painfully unfunny. In fact, I saw it in a theater with at least three other families. There was an older couple as well. And I mean, I think maybe one person laughed one time in the entire movie. And that surprised me, because I thought going in that this was going to be a fun, romp for the family about this Christmas pageant that goes horribly awry. That's what the book was. And so it's partially that the jokes were just falling flat. And the other part is that it just seemed too mean-spirited. Even before we all learned the meaning of Christmas by the end of the movie, it seemed really, in this day and age, in 2024, it seemed very, very cruel to sort of single out these kids for being bad, when it's pretty obvious early on in the movie that their mother, basically isn't around. She works like, overnights or odd hours or whatever. The dad, I don't think, is even mentioned. So here we are, kind of supposed to be laughing at these kids, and it felt nasty. I think this movie would have played better in the 80s, when, like I said, the TV movie version of the book was made, or even in the 90s when it was still kind of, anything goes. But now it sort of seems like, from a different lens of, kids are being neglected a lot and mistreated at home and whatever, and they become a product of that environment, etc. And so the idea of, laughing at these kids and, oh, what buffoons, what jerks, they are. I don't know. I mean, I feel like The Simpsons even played that off better with Nelson in the few episodes we got of his home life and his backstory. I don't know. It reminded me a little bit, these kids did, of the Glossner family on The Middle. If you've ever watched that show, they were Brooke Shields' kids, and they were sort of, running around and running amok and whatever. I don't know, but it was played better there. Because they were played as sort of bullies, but they weren't portrayed as, just the scum of the earth kids. Oh, Judy Greer, how could you even let these kids, breathe near your pageant, kind of thing. I don't know. It left a bad taste in my mouth for that. So hated that. But other than that part, the jokes just weren't there. This is not a funny movie. And I was very surprised by that based on the book. However, on the flip side of that, the messaging is great. I think because there's no real, hijinks from these kids, per se, I think this movie probably is better suited to the adults than it is the kids, because even the kids in this movie were not laughing or anything. And that's not a great sign when you're going to a PG family comedy and kids are just stone cold silent the whole time. But so you have this great messaging by the end that definitely works and is powerful, about, we've mistreated these kids. We are the ones who are not the great Christians here, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not really beating you over the head with it, which a lot of Christian movies certainly do. And I'm a Christian, so I don't necessarily mind that messaging, but I think it's done a lot of the times in movies like, God's Not Dead or whatever. It just beats you over the head with it, so much so that any semblance of, a plot or anything is just dismissed because, it's so heavy-handed. here we don't have that. It's more. It reminded me a lot of like the Peanuts Christmas special. Certainly there's a lot of meaning of Christmas stuff there and Christian messaging. Under the guise of the Peanuts clan, doing what they do. And so there's some reminders of that here, but overall, I just don't think it's that well put together, unfortunately. I will say that the Herdmans, to go back to them for a moment, they do steal the show. I mean, especially the older girl, I guess that is played by Beatrice Schneider. She's fantastic in this, and you see her go through sort of this different range of emotions, not wanting to be the bad seed, whatever, and really she becomes the de facto mother for these other kids. Since their real mother, just doesn't seem to be around much. So I don't know. There's just some mixed messaging here. Are we supposed to laugh at these kids, or are we supposed to, protect them and love them? Certainly, the other moms in the church, other than Judy Greer, they come off as jerks, so that plays well. But I don't know. This movie is a bit of a mixed bag for me. But the messaging certainly comes through loud and clear, and I think is well done. So unfortunately, this is more of an average grade for me. The book, much, much better. The book is like an A minus in that range, classic. But I will leave the film version of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever with a C plus. A bit disappointing. I really wanted some more humor there, certainly in that first, 2/3 of the movie. All right. Thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. I'll see you next time.